We are live on Masti AVI right now. हमारा चल रहा है cooking show which is called Cooking Comes Alive, the only show of its kind across Southeast Asia जहाँ पर रेडियो स्टूडियो से लाइव हम किचन के अंदर घुसते हैं और लाइव खाना बनाते हैं।
पहला आपका स्वागत करता हूँ सिंगापुर रेडियो मस्ती 24/7 लाइव की वो महफिल जिसे आप थ्रोबैक थर्सडे कहते हैं।
रेडियो मस्ती 24/7 पर आप हमें दिल की आंखों से देखते हैं, लेकिन मस्ती एवीआई पर हम भी आपको देखते हैं और छेड़ते हैं। Best of audio and visual entertainment. Games, star interviews, contests, full on masti.
Masti AVI.
Masti AVI.
Masti AVI. Masti AVI. Follow us on Radio Masti 24/7 Live Singapore Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay updated. Masti AVI, meaningful entertainment at your fingertips. Brought to you exclusively by Radio Masti 24/7.
Absolutely. Brought to you exclusively by Radio Masti 24/7 and Masti Media Network. A very warm welcome, guys. This is Renuka. जी हाँ, मैं कल भी आई थी आपसे मिलने, and that was the part 1 of the series on the proud occasion of International Women's Day 2022. Break the bias, as we've been saying since yesterday. Well, what's happening right now? I told you that I'm going to get some amazing speakers today as well on a very special panel. They have been specifically chosen just for our platform. Well, what's going to happen is that from now for the next 60 minutes, I'm going to have some amazing women जिनके बारे में आप जानते हैं. We did send out a small note to you earlier today talking about who's going to join us. अब आप जानेंगे और समझेंगे that women are from all across. They are, of course, today, our platform, I would say, it's about not only bringing out various facets of women, but to highlight aspects that are still a challenge for women in today's world. हमें experience हुआ है या नहीं हुआ है? Maybe we have not experienced, and we are lucky if we haven't experienced disparity or otherwise discrimination. But the unfortunate fact is that it does exist. Whether it is about diversity, inclusivity, or it's about preconceived notions, such as hiring women of a certain age because they are expected to go off on maternity leave, maybe at some point of time, या फिर कुछ ऐसा lack of focus that women will probably have at their workplace. Therefore, slow progression in the career. Is that logical? Well, we're going to be talking about this and a lot more this evening. But sabse pehle, I'm going to take a look at your messages. Hello, Dev Soma, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me yesterday for part 1 and also for part 2 of this conversation today. Hello, Kirti, and a very warm welcome. Well, Dev Soma, you and Kirti both are working women, and you do have other aspects of your life as well linked with us, and that is a homemaker as well as a mother, a wife, and many other roles that you play. So I'm sure you will find this conversation very meaningful, and I'm sure each one of us is going to learn something from this. All right, my first guest this evening, well, I'm going to be inviting her here. Her name is Meta Johansson, and not only is she the founder of Keynote Women Speakers, who are our partners for today's very special show here, but she's also the founder of Mastermind Training, which she founded after working in leadership positions across regions for over 15 years. जी हाँ, 15 साल से भी ज़्यादा का उनका जो experience है. I'm going to be inviting Meta right here to introduce herself and have a little bit of a conversation about her experience.
Imagine a gender-equal world.
A world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination.
A world that is diverse, equitable, and inclusive.
A world where difference is valued and celebrated.
Together, we can forge women's equality.
Collectively, we can all #break the bias.
Let's break the bias. This International Women's Day and more.
Welcome, Meta. Welcome to Masti Media Network and to this very special show. How does it feel to be here? Tell me.
It's amazing. What an energy that you're exuding. Thank you so much for having me, Renuka.
Thank you so much for appreciating that. Well, I hope I can impress you guys this evening because coming from Keynote Women Speakers Forum, I've been having goosebumps, all day preparing for talking in front of you guys. After all, you do this every time, and I'm still learning. Meta, tell me, if I may just ask you, you have such a lot of experience across various areas. And of course, the most recent one is that you are interviewing 100 leaders for your third book. Wow. So, before we really go on, can I ask you one aspect that you believe is common amongst each of these leaders? What would you say?
Now, it's very interesting because authenticity is one of the things that is on every life coach's lips. We say it all the time ourselves as well. But do we really understand what it is? Do we really understand what it takes to be authentic? And that is one of the things that is the most common in our conversations. That is starting the discussion about what is authenticity? What makes somebody authentic? What makes you you?
Wow, that is fantastic. I'm sure there's a lot that I can learn from you this evening and our audience as well. So, welcome to Masti Media Network once more. Before I invite my other speakers, Meta, a quick word about Keynote. How exactly did you figure out that there is a need in this world to have something like this? And how was the journey so far?
It's a very interesting story how we started. I was asked by a women's network here in Singapore,
Uh-huh.
Primetime Women and Business Organization. I forgot even the full name of it. We just call it Primetime. I was asked by Primetime, can you please make a list of women who speak in our organization? Because
Right.
sometimes our president gets a request, and instead of this going to waste, let's just pass it on to this list of women who can speak as well. And when I saw that list of women, I thought, why keep this to ourselves? And in fact, one of the other guests who is here with us tonight, she was together with me in that situation. And we Googled, we saw that there's no such thing as a directory of women speakers in Asia. This is 4.5 years ago. And we decided, all right, let's just make the leading directory of women speakers in Asia, which sounded a bit scary at the time. Now, 4.5 years later, we are the world's leading directory of women speakers, and we definitely want to continue our mission, which is about bringing more diversity to
Mhm.
speaking stages. A
Wow.
side effect of all of this is also that by training more women to speak on stage, they're
Mhm.
finding that they're speaking differently when they speak at home with friends and in the office. So we're finding that we're actually moving the needle a little bit on gender equality, gender balance.
That is so fantastic, and you're very right. Many times, women speakers, when they're invited, either they are just taken for granted to the extent that let's invite a few women speakers. There's no formal forum as such where there's a directory of sorts, and you can actually pick and choose the right person for the right forum. So I think you've done a fantastic, fantastic job there. All right, let's move on, Meta. While you wait here patiently with me, well, I do want to tell everybody storytelling. Storytelling is the most powerful way of putting ideas into the world, right? Um, अगर हमें आपको और हमें हिस्ट्री पढ़ाई जाती and it was in the form of stories, I don't think I would have been that bad at history. I would have really remembered. And great stories happen to those who can actually tell them. So, well, our next guest is a very, very big storyteller and an amazing one as that. Well, sometimes we do say, guys, this guy is just good at storytelling, but this one is serious, all right? She's the founder of Narrative, the business of stories, which is a multinational story practice working with a large number of established brands. And she helps individuals and organizations find, curate, and tell their transformation stories. And change, as we say, is the only constant. So let's invite Anjali Sharma. Anjali, welcome. Welcome. How
Thank
does it feel?
you.
Oh my God, look at this girl. She loves telling stories. Who's going to believe if you're going to be that quiet?
Oh, no, not at all. I'm not quite at all. I'm just letting you get started.
Well, I am so excited to have you on this forum today. Really, Anjali, I've been going through your blog, and I have to admit that it's extremely impressive. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. I'm so glad to be here.
Anjali, I'll ask you a very quick question. All right. You interact with a large number of organizations. Of course, you have your own stories to talk about, right? And of course, by meeting different people who are employees, companies, and yeah, many times they have challenges in delivering their best. So, if I ask you one little question, that what is that one factor that you have noticed that prevents a women from delivering their best at work? What would you say?
Right. Okay. So it's probably an answer that I would like to divide in two parts. So the first
Right.
part is this, that although we have developed a lot of knowledge around challenges for women to be able to bring their best selves to work, we
Mhm.
haven't developed enough understanding. So knowledge and understanding are two very different things.
Right.
A lot of people who are in positions right now to be able to help women grow within organization happen to be men, because we haven't yet seen that big change at the top level, and they create opportunities for women but
Right.
only on the basis of knowledge they have. So I'll give you a simple example. मैं हिंदी में बोलूं?
हाँ, बिल्कुल, absolutely. As long as Method has no problem.
Okay, I know Meta is very, very inclusive and she doesn't mind.
She will
um,
translate. She'll translate to English when we speak Hindi. All right.
तो जैसे अगर आपके बॉस ने आपको एक वुमन है और आप अपनी कंपनी में काम करती हैं और आपके बॉस आपको बोले कि आप जाइए एक बिजनेस ट्रिप में सिडनी। अगर एक आदमी को बोला जाता है कि आप बिजनेस ट्रिप के लिए सिडनी जाएं, तो वो आदमी घर जाएगा, तैयारी करेगा, पावर पॉइंट तैयार करेगा, अपना मटेरियल तैयार करेगा, बिजनेस की मीटिंग की तैयारी करेगा और चला जाएगा। जो
Absolutely.
औरत होती है उसको, मैं बच्चों का क्या करूं, मैं फ्रिज में क्या है क्या ना करूं, मेरी हेल्पर का क्या करूं, और मैंने नेल्स बना लिए, वैक्सिंग कर ली, बाल तो ग्रे नहीं है, हजार, और मटेरियल तो शायद फ्लाइट पे याद आता है कि मुझे बोलना क्या है। Point I'm making through an example of travel is that when someone, a very well meaning boss, actually gives an opportunity, the
Hmm.
same opportunity to a man or a woman, he may
Yes.
have the knowledge that I have to give opportunity because she rightfully deserves the opportunity.
Hmm.
But he does not have an understanding of what all goes behind that for her to make it happen. So I think
Absolutely.
one of the reasons that I feel that there's a lot of opportunity that is being given to women, but I
Hmm.
think the ecosystem and the infrastructure to be able to make sure that those opportunities are fulfilled well by women, there is lack of understanding in that as yet. Because we only gain understanding through our experiences. And you cannot possibly expect a man to have an understanding or experience of what it is to be a woman, not unless you translate those experiences into stories and give them that understanding. So the point I'm making is that's one of the big reasons. The second one I would say is that what we're finding a lot is that in the organizations, men have understood support to be very different, in a very different way than it really should be. So, say
Hmm.
for example, a female engineer who has a 2-year-old son and a 10-year-old daughter gets promoted. And then the woman says, I don't think I can do this role because it requires a lot more of me. Already मेरी बैंड बजी हुई है और मैं ये सीनियर बन गई तो फिर और सारा काम होगा, तो मेरे लिए बेस्ट ऑप्शन है मैं जाके मना कर दूं. So the
True.
best option I can take is to go and say no to the role. And the boss says, okay, no problem. I will try to support you. So support for the boss looks like I will attend meeting instead of you. I will represent you in the events that you would need to in this role. But that's not what we want. We don't want you to, then you defeat the purpose of promoting us. You take
Absolutely.
away all the opportunities from us. What support looks like is to really start questioning the system. Can I change the meeting times? Can I actually make it a day event versus an evening or a night event to be able to help that woman show up? So support is not replacing that woman. Support is ensuring that you give her an opportunity to be heard. So I would say that repeatedly what I'm watching is this difference between knowledge and understanding and what support looks like that prevents women from showing up in the best possible way.
Awesome. And I'm so glad that COVID has taught us a lot more. So we've been taught to be more flexible and more accepting towards a lot of personal situations. And I'm not saying COVID is great, but yeah, there are some positives that have come out of it, apart from positive people testing. But in any case, thanks Anjali for that. We're going to be moving on, and my third and I would say last but not the least guest today is from the corporate world. Yes. So, in case everybody's been thinking that every lady here is a founder, there's a founder of Masti Media Network, there's a founder of Keynote, and of course, Masterminds, and there's a founder of Narratives. So, we have an amazing person who is actually in love with technology, and she loves people, just like us. And therefore, what she's done is she has blended the two to contribute beautifully towards keeping the business of Microsoft up and kicking. Well, we can give all the credit to her for what is happening right now at Microsoft. I'm sure she loved this introduction, but I'm going to just invite a very special person right here, and her name is Kavya Kanchan.
Make sure you add Masti to your lives. Download the app today and stay energized and connected on the go. Radio Masti 24/7 Live, Singapore's only Bollywood radio since 2009.
Oh yeah.
Radio since 2009.
Oh, hello. Hi, Renuka. I'm still laughing at that introduction. Microsoft is a very large company with many people holding it up there. But really glad to be here. Namaste, Masti listeners. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Kavya. No, I just wanted to make sure that when you are here, because you've really waited with a lot of patience, when you're here, you come here with a smile and tell me, listen, okay, but no, I don't say it because I'm in the corporate world. I always give the credit to my team, not to myself. All right.
Absolutely.
So we still have a little bit of a lag, Kavya, but we'll try and live with that for the moment till I don't hear you. Yeah, and then I'll have to request you to step out. Well, Anjali was just talking about an engineer, and I thought of you at that time as well. Okay, and a woman who's an engineer, and of course, we're talking about an electronics and an electrical engineer back from India who, was considered very exotic. Tell me, how many girls did you have in your class in engineering at that time?
Oh, it was not that bad, actually. I was in engineering in 2000, right? So it was not that bad. But what was interesting is during my middle school and high school, there was a lot of questioning in the larger family as to whether it's worth investing in the education of a girl, right? But I'm quite grateful that my parents, the immediate family, didn't feel that, and they still supported the education. So it was a matter of what opinions, what encouragement versus discouragement you give heed to, and the ones that you ignore, right? And if you find the direction that you sort of want to go into, and if you have the right support, you can do it. We still had a good percentage of girls and women in our class. I studied in Kerala, so it was a good mix. But or continue to pursue the education that we got, which sort of brings us to the problem that maybe Anjali or Mete were sort of alluding to earlier, like during the career stage, right? During the mid 20s to mid 30s, what happens to some of these really talented, skilled female who come out of really well-educated institutes? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, you are from one of the most literate states of India, so I'm sure things would not be that bad, in that part of India. But in many other states of India, as we know, things are still pretty much discriminated. So,
yes.
Well, some of us, as I said right in the beginning, are lucky not to face discrimination, but then not everyone is, and therefore the significance of that special importance given to International Women's Day, because a lot of people yesterday as well asked me. I said, personally, I don't celebrate International Women's Day because I've been one of those lucky ones, and I don't believe in having champagne luncheons and talking about how terrible the situation of women is across the world. Well, I believe in adding some sort of value with women like yourselves who probably can highlight the topics of today and then, of course, throw some light to the concerns. So, thank you so much, guys, for being here. A very formal thank you. A wonderful panel I have. Let's move on. So, Meta, thank you for your patience for so long. Now you will answer in Hindi, all right? So, my question to you is that you've worked in leadership positions across, and of course, you've interacted, as we mentioned, across cultures as well, right? When you go and talk to your clients, when you look at women across different fields and areas, do you feel that the inclusivity, the much talked about inclusivity, or having women to play a certain role in the leadership on the board of companies, for example, is that really happening, or is that still lip service? What do you think?
It really depends on what companies you're looking at. Some companies are very advanced, and we have a person here from Microsoft, right? Kavya. Microsoft is a company that's doing a lot for inclusion. It's also because they have a leader, Satya Nadella, who's personally invested in making sure that there is inclusion at the workplace. Another one of my clients is also personally invested in making a difference. They have decided that in their meetings, they will always start with the topic of inclusion, whether it is to stress how far they've come, how far they still have to go, whether it is in the general business topics, when you're doing market research, making sure that you're also looking at the demographics of women and not ignoring those. Making it part of the agenda is what makes it also part of the overall company. Now, then there's the other category of companies that, they have the strategy in place. Take a multinational company that's headquartered in the US. They have this diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging strategy, and they're going to roll it out in the entire world. And then companies here in Asia are saying, what are we going to do with that? Oh, it's about Black people. And that's not the same issue in Asia as it is in the US. Yep. All of a sudden, this strategy that's rolled out is less relevant here. And also, some of the leaders might know that, inclusion is a good thing. But when the daily priorities all of a sudden take over, we're neglecting diversity, equity, inclusion. That is what's still happening in a lot of different companies. Take one of my clients, for instance. They are very much committed to bringing inclusion all over in all corners of the workplace. Mm-hmm. And then they needed a candidate for a senior position very quickly. There was a vacancy. The business was suffering from not having somebody in there for a few days. And they had some CVs in front of them. They hadn't made a big effort, so of course they had the usual suspects, which were all men, in front of them, and they quickly took somebody so that they had that vacancy filled. What they're not realizing in that situation is when you are letting the daily urgencies take over, you're taking a decision that might be very costly. Because if you're not even considering women for that position, because it takes more effort to find more women to apply for senior positions. If you're looking at your own network that's also male, for instance, it will take more effort, and it can be a very costly decision if you're not fixing it there, because you might be hiring a senior leader for the next 20 years. And then you are writing off the benefits of diversity and inclusion, which are, by the way, 9 percentage points additional EBIT, earnings before interest and taxes, if you are in the top league of diversity and inclusion in your leadership compared to the bottom part.
Well, that's a very practical approach towards what you just mentioned. Yes, that is a problem, and yes, sometimes we do have to fill a position so quickly that we do not really focus on many candidates, specifically the women, as you mentioned. But on the flip side, and if I may ask Kavya yourself, what many people say is that just because the organizations have decided to reserve a certain percentage nowadays, because obviously women have been talking about it, leadership has to be sort of between the two genders, Do you think that unnecessarily women who do not deserve also end up filling those positions just because there are very few women who are out there in leadership positions, right? So sometimes people who don't have the experience or ठीक नहीं भी होते वो लोग, and for the benefit of a lot of my audience मैं ये कहूंगी कि sometimes जिन लोगों को इतना experience नहीं भी होता है तो भी उन लड़कियों को leadership position में डाला जाता है. Have you experienced that in your work life? Do you think so?
Okay. Yeah, thanks for this question, because this is a very big debate that happens these days, right, in the corporate corridors. On one side is the necessity for diversity and inclusion, and on the other side is the skills that are needed to deliver on a job, right? So actually, and I'll go into Hindi. Actually, there are two aspects. हमें दो चीजें देखनी चाहिए यहाँ पे, right? कि एक जॉब करने के लिए किसी के पास वो स्किल, द नेसेसरी स्किल सेट है कि नहीं. बट ये भी तो मन में रखना पड़ेगा कि 100% स्किल सेट के साथ तो कोई आता नहीं है, ठीक है? सो यू हैव टू लुक एट द बैलेंस, राइट? इफ दिस पर्सन इज देयर अराउंड 80%, राइट, एंड दे ऑल्सो हैव द राइट एटीट्यूड, जो सही एटीट्यूड के साथ आते हैं, यू कैन गेज, right, okay, whether this person will be right for the job or not, irrespective of the gender. I'm again repeating, irrespective of the gender. That's the way to look at it. So ek hua skill set, and with the gap in skill set, whether it can be bridged or not, and dusra hua the attitude that they bring to work. So that's the way that we are looking at it, and I think most of the organizations look at it. And if there is a female candidate or an underrepresented gender candidate who meets these criteria, and if there is an inclusion issue in the company, then let us prioritize them. That's the way to, that's one of the approaches. I wouldn't say that's the way, but that's one of the approaches. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that is where the big question comes, whether to look at inclusivity and look at gender, inclusivity, and of course have the right gender at the right place, or else face that kind of a disparity and be answerable in several other areas, because sometimes the top down decision is not really the perfect decision, as well as we experience in real life. Anjali, a story, please, really. So tell me, have you experienced anything like, for yourself in your life or otherwise for a client, where you've actually successfully broken the bias and seen the results from as is to be situation? Was there something like that that you can share with us?
Yeah, for me personally, I only started to, notice the biases that I have, or the environment in which I have grown up. They existed once I had certain level of knowledge and awareness about this whole bias thing.
Right.
Many years ago, I was not even able to spell this word. What the hell is this word, right? And I think when we say break the bias, we make an assumption that it's a visible bias, but mostly biases are invisible, So if I knew what's my bias, then I would break it. But if I don't even see it, then how do I break it? So for me personally, the biases that existed in the environment only started to sort of stand in front of me about like 5-6 years ago, and that happened with maturity, age-wise and reading-wise and exposure-wise and all that sort of stuff. So I'll come to a little incident which I'll tell you about. I'm a daughter of an army colonel, and आप इंडिया से जो लोग आते हैं आपको पता है कि बड़ी शान होती है ना, फौजी की बेटी है, army brat. So army people are meant to be mostly like more open-minded. So for the longest time, I said, what nonsense is this bias and difference between boy and girl? I've never faced it. This is all rubbish. I've had to do whatever I wanted to in my life. And then I'll tell you when it stood out in front of me. It was a little bit like trust. They say trust is not built in big moments, it's built in little sweeping moments. For me, my biases started to become, or my family's biases started to become really clear to me in little moments. So this was 4-5 years ago. I'd gone home. My mother lives in Himachal Pradesh in a place called Dharamshala. So all Indians call Dharamshala. So I'd gone home. My sister-in-law and I, the helper didn't come, the cook didn't come that day. My sister-in-law and I, put a meal together for the whole family. It's like the whole family is there. And then we finished the meal. And my husband, who's brought up in Australia, and brought up in a family where his mom's a doctor, sister's a doctor, all women work. He's very used to getting up and putting dishes in the kitchen and all that sort of stuff. So he started to pick up stuff and put it in the kitchen. My mother just jumped in and said, "नहीं नहीं, आप इसको छोड़ दो, ये आप मत करो." And then she looked at me like, "Get up and pick it. How can he do it?" And I thought, there you go. There is a problem here in this house. I just haven't seen it. But the thing to notice here is that that's my mother's norm. It's an invisible bias for her that she's never seen. It's a little bit like we say, you know, there's a way riots happen, right? One person throws a stone and the other person also throws a stone, and then everyone throws a stone. My mother's norm for that behavior is 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%. So that's at a personal level. Now I notice them all the time. Sometimes I just smile. Sometimes I tell my mom no. Sometimes I notice myself in those biases. Let me give you a quick update in the corporate world, right? I have broken a bias for a client. So I would say the project that I'm really proud of is about a 3-year project that I worked on. I'm still working on it. You see, for as long as the project about gender equality in an organization was transactional, which meant we have to bring the gender equality to this level, it matters to us because we have that much to do. For as long as it was filled with data and number, we were just getting a transactional approach to it. And then one day we decided 120 leaders, we put them together. I said to them, I'm going to speak to each one of you, and you are going to tell me a story reflecting on your life where you think you made a mistake with the gender equality issue, or you're actually really proud. What it meant to Matthew, what it meant to Sam, what it meant to anybody else, it started to become transformational. They started to go, oh my God, I did that. Now that I have the knowledge and I can reflect, I did that. And the kind of things we started to go was, people would say, at 9:30 at night, I saw a female engineer working. I said to her, why are you working so late? Wouldn't your husband be upset? And then I went, oh, I'm so sorry. If a male engineer was working late, I would never say that, because they had gone through the process of transformation. So I think for anything to shift from transactional to transformation, it has to be something that is reflection-led. You can't fix a corporate culture on what is easy, as Meta said. What's easy, just do. Easier is not better. And if we always go back to fast, fix, we're never going to be able to make a change happen.
It's not only about reflecting, it's also about accepting, right? Once you reflect, it's very difficult for each one of us to accept that we were wrong. It comes from a lot of other practices as well. I mean, what you just mentioned is a very small thing, that picking up dishes for a son-in-law specifically in an Indian household, and I talk Indian household, Meta, please do feel free to kind of fill this point if you think that there is a different belief in other parts of the world that you represent. But I feel that it is very common. Sometimes we tend to feel that these are certain tasks which are for women traditionally, and therefore women have the first right to do it. Walking for example, the crew on the airline, the people, if I'm a stewardess, then it's okay. But if a guy decides to be a steward, it wouldn't be taken that easy. Nowadays things are changing, but the point is, are you sure? Because it's something for girls. Similarly, leading an organization on a technology front, sometimes you just see a guy sitting there. Even the advertisements, many times they reflect certain gender, and it's very difficult to break that bias, as unless we reflect and we accept. So let me just go back to you, and Meta, maybe you can mention this one as well, in terms of pay parity, right? Because I'm slowly coming to the topic, which we are addressing today, and hopefully come to a conclusion, at least from our perspectives and experiences. Is this a patriarchal society? Does this male-dominating society still exist after all these things and all the efforts that we are making as women for years now? Pay differences, do they exist?
Absolutely. What you're saying about the patriarchal society, the business world is a man's world. And if you've seen that if you think that's a little bit far-fetched, think about if anybody of the listeners have done a business school MBA program, who are the authors of the books that were taught in business school? Now, I did an MBA program, and I can tell you that the authors of my MBA program, they were all the white, able-bodied American dude. So, of course, they're the ones who have been writing the golden rules in business. So, yes, it is a man's world today still. We've designed business around a man's needs and not necessarily a woman's needs. So, yes, out there, women need to learn to navigate that world. And of course, the world also needs to change because there's no need whatsoever for men only to work and women to do all the care and household work. Now, regarding the pay gap that you're mentioning, in different countries, there are different pay gaps. It is still absolutely real. Sometimes there's discussions around, well, how big is the pay gap? We've closed it already. A lot of companies will say, we have closed the pay gap. We are paying women and men the same for the same value work. Now, this is one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is, what do women earn in general? What do men earn? And where is the pay gap there? Now, that's where I can tell you the pay gap is huge. Women who are in a professional job, they are working typically 7 hours a week more than men on unpaid care and household work. 7 hours more of unpaid work. And women are also typically doing a lot more jobs that are not valued very much. They're not seen as needing a high pay. I was working in corporate communications when I was in the corporate world. And there I was also told, when I confronted my bosses saying, listen, I have a 23% pay gap in comparison to my husband who was working for the same company, and the salaries arrived on the same bank account. So I could see how big the pay gap was. And it was exactly 23%. And the answer was, well, communications where you're in, it's not as high value as marketing, which he does. So of course you're paid less. Now, of course, we are valuing the work that women do typically less than what men do. Whether it is a nurse is paid much less than the firefighter, for instance, whether it is an air hostess that you mentioned before, the women's job, HR, communication, nursing, teaching. There was a study in Denmark, where I'm originally from, that showed that when there was a gender move in a job, for instance, teaching, and also being medical doctors, in Denmark, there's loads of women who've gone into the medical field. And the salaries of those trades, those professions where women have entered much more over the past decades, salaries have gone down because we value the jobs that women do less. So that is food for thought with the pay gap. Are we truly paying people the same for the same value? Or are we having different standards of who has what kind of value?
Absolutely. And I think you bring out a very important point here because, I mean, we read surveys and we read numbers, but sometimes people who are out there and meeting different clients and others, they would bring out the real numbers and real experiences. So in the world, and this is again, I quote, this across the globe, there are only 6 countries that give equal working rights to women. And this is 2022 we are talking about. There's Belgium, there's Denmark, Denmark, good for you. There's France, there's Latvia, there's Luxembourg, and there's Sweden. Apart from that, we don't see other countries even trying to give equal working rights to women. So I'll go to someone who's in the corporate world. Kavya, my question to you is in 2 parts. One, do you see pay parity at your organization or whatever your experience has been? And second, do you see women struggling to prove themselves and really trying to prove themselves by working hard, by trying to show to their bosses that they are equally good, or trying to put in that extra effort to be in the same role that a counterpart male is, and still not reaching the equal pay? Do you see that happening in today's world?
Yes, I do. That's the short answer. Does Is there pay disparity? Yes, there is. There are organizations that are working towards solving it, um, but there are loopholes, right? It depends, as Mete was alluding to earlier. It depends on the organization. It depends on the leadership. How important this conversation is within the organization, right?
Right.
In my career thus far, I work with multiple companies. I have always had to fight my battles, to go and demand that I am ready for the next thing, and that conversation always has to be initiated by myself or the woman in question, right? It never comes to us because somebody did saw your how amazing you are and then you're ready for the next big thing, right? So
Right.
it's always a fight, and that takes a lot of self belief nurturing and self confidence building, which many of us don't have in the first place because we have been conditioned from childhood that you're working you're aiming for something that you're not up for, right? So first of all, you have fought that battle with yourself and your conditioning to get where you are, and then you are doing well, and then you still have to fight for further success, right? So this is what I do see all around. There are organizations who are trying to create systems of support in place, but I wish we reach a state where these these kind of extra efforts become unnecessary, right? If there is skill set, if there is performance, irrespective of gender, nationality, background, social background, whatever, they are
Yes.
given the opportunity. But I also want to take this moment to touch upon what Mete said about the business world and why it's a man's world. I want to bring a perspective from technology, right?
Right.
See, today technology is sort of changing everything that we know, the way we live, the way we work, even like non-tech fields like music, right? This radio, we are seeing it on an app, right? So everything is being transformed by technology. But the issue that we see today is most of this tech is being built by one gender, and this tech is going to serve the purposes of the entire world, 50% of which are women, and there are a lot of other genders in between, right? So more than ever right now, we need as diverse and as creative a talent group that we can find to build the technology of the future. Otherwise, most of our life and work needs may not be met as women. I just wanted to bring that point up because it's so critical in business as well as tech, right? That we see diversity in the teams building the future solutions. Yeah.
Yes, yes, you're right. And I'll just kind of mention that while women have realized that there is disparity, we do realize that there is discrimination. We are moving in the right direction. It's not just when I say we, I don't mean women, I mean as as a civilization, we all realize and we are moving in the right direction. But then, end of the day, how much is being done at both ends? While women can continue to struggle and fight to be elevated to the next level, the other bit is also about upskilling ourselves. While
Absolutely.
we do juggle with our existing responsibilities, and many men do kind of chip in and kind of do their bit in today's world, at least we are still struggling across the world, right, in terms of leveling up. Anjali, just a question here to you. um, do you think women hesitate when it comes to asking for a raise? Because while men are good negotiators, as we always hear, and they put their foot down and they are valued more, going by what Meta also mentioned, I feel that women are shy when they ask for their worth. This is my personal belief and experience, but what do you think? What have you seen?
Yeah, so I don't personally think it's entirely an automatic default sort of a situation where somebody wakes up in the morning and says, it's because a man is in the role, I'm going to pay more, and because there's a woman, I'm going to pay less, right? It's again a bias that has been built over the years. And in our conscious mind, we always say, no, 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 never. We're not like that. But subconsciously, we're always in that trap, okay?
True.
So I'm going to take you back to the year 2005. In 2005, I went to work in Australia, and I was a director of a certain department. And I had to fly over to Sydney to do some sales calls with the guy who was leading the Sydney market. I was leading Melbourne, he was leading Sydney. So we went around the road all day. We were exactly the same roles, just that he was Sydney, I was Melbourne. And then there was this traffic jam, and we got stuck in traffic jam. And that was not the days of I'm on my phone, I could spend time. So we got chatting, and in that chitter chatter, we were stuck in the traffic for 2.5 hours. He said to me, he told me what his salary was. And I'm not kidding you, it was 50% more than my salary. So it's like we're the same role, different markets, and it's 50% more. But what do I do with that information? I come back to my hotel room and I start telling myself all the reasons I should be grateful, right? Oh, I'm an Indian, not an Australian, and I'm getting this much, that's good enough, right? Oh, Sydney is a really more sort of snazzy market. Melbourne's a little bit dead and dull. So maybe that what I'm getting is good enough.
Yes.
And many years later, I connected that with what Amy Wambach, who's actually a soccer player, wrote in a book called The Wolf Pack. She says, although women need to be grateful for what they have, they can't be so grateful that they stop asking for what they deserve and what their rights are.
Yeah.
And there is an immense amount of data that she puts around. She uses her own personal experiences as to how she's scored the maximum number of goals in the history of football, whether that's men or women. I don't know exactly the statistic here, but she had a big achievement under her belt. But she still was just grateful for what she was getting and not really demanding more. So I think partly it's the story we tell ourselves as well, and we can't be so. It's the perils of great gratitude that we have to be careful about. We can't be so grateful that we actually forget what exactly is our right. The pay parity exists because of that reason also.
It does. And we have to stop justifying that we deserve less than a man. We have to stop justifying it to ourselves, and we have to stop justifying it to others who ask us and make us uncomfortable with that question. When I, for example, in my corporate career, when I'm about to join an organization or when I am a part of an organization, and thankfully, because I have always led global HR systems, I have access to global compensation, and I love it. Because that gives you that extra information that nobody else has, right? And sometimes you feel like getting in to the systems, and Kavya, please don't listen to this. I feel like getting in, killing the security and changing their numbers. Because obviously, it's a very uncomfortable feeling to see a man, just because he's a man, he's getting paid more, although he's not as serious or passionate about his job as you are, probably, right? So those things happen. But end of the day, whether it's housework or it is work at office, we have to stop justifying that we must do more or we must earn less because we deserve less. That's not the case. So going back to Kavya, your vote is also yes. It is a male-dominated society. Unfortunately, still, Meta says yes.
It is changing. It depends on who you are asking, where they are from, right? It's not this like the same situation all over, right? Like what Anjali was saying, there's no like one way to describe it. It depends the society around you, the workplace, the people around you, your immediate family. So the answers are going to vary. But at least in my limited sphere of existence, I can see that there is a shift towards the positive direction, but the shift is not fast enough, if you ask me. I mean, it's not fast enough for me, it's not fast enough for any of us here on the call. So that's the question: how long do we have to wait? Because this is like basic rights, right? That's my thought here. Yeah.
And I'd agree with that. Anjali, is it still a man's world?
It's totally a man's world. If it wasn't man's world, then some time ago there were these floods in Gujarat, and the government gave funding to build houses that people had lost. And when the funding came, along with the government worked the rural men to describe the needs, and then the houses were ready. And nobody's going to believe this, but the truth is the house had no kitchen, because you know what, going back to what Kavya's point was, that there was only one gender involved in building what is called a house, right? It's not somewhere they work. And if you want to know more about this story, go into this book called The Invisible Women. And there's a data point that actually really highlights this. If it wasn't a man's world, then in London, not that long ago, a woman, whilst she's a police, she's in the police, and she is trying to go and get a burglar who's gone into the house, for theft, and she realizes that she has to climb through a pipe to be able to get into the house to catch this guy, but
Right.
she couldn't do it with the vest that she had, because it's just, the bulletproof vest is just too heavy and it's clunky. So she takes it out and she climbs, and she then gets shot by the thief inside. Now, the point of that story is that that vest was never designed for a woman's body. After this incident took place, many women came forward and told and revealed to us things that we would not believe, which was some of them had to have done breast surgeries to be able to fit into that vest. And some just simply decided they're going to conduct their day-to-day duties without those vests because it was impossible to wear. So if it was not man's world, then those things would not be happening. These stories, along with a lot of data that supports the numbers, tell exactly the same story. It is still a man's world for sure. But what I'm happy about the fact is that I'm sitting here and at least having a conversation on something that's called International Women's Day. We're talking about women's rights. Just if I look at some of my pictures from 2015, I was the only woman in the panel, and that was absolutely fine. Like, there was nobody pointing out, nobody pulling anyone up. And I thought it was pretty cool to be the only woman. Today, even I'd roll my eyes. Are you kidding me? Only me? So I like that.
Well, yeah, that there is a positive and always a challenge there. And I think we'll have to challenge ourselves. There's nothing wrong in challenge. There's nothing wrong in competition. When people ask me, you must be very comfortable in your space as the only live Indian media platform across Southeast Asia. And I look at them and I said, no, I'm always on my feet. Irrespective of not having a competition out there, it doesn't mean that I can get lazy and lay back and enjoy this. No, it still means that my competition is open across the world. I have to compete with people outside of Singapore. Singapore is not the place I am competing. So, yes, I'm the only one here, but you never know who comes in and takes me by surprise tomorrow. At the same time, I think it's whether it's women or it's the men out there. When people ask what are the challenges you face in business as a woman, I kind of step back, and I'm sure you all will agree there. Challenges that women face may be a little bit more sometimes as compared to men, but definitely challenge doesn't look at the gender. When it when it comes throwing at you, it doesn't say, listen, you're a woman, I think I'll give you this challenge. No, it's the same challenge of survival, the same challenge of looking at the next day, hunting for your clients, satisfying your audience, and a lot more. Is there any other aspect which either of you would like to add before we say goodbye for this evening? Meta, anything from you to end this conversation?
I was thinking about the happy International Women's Day that we have been talking about for the past couple of days, because it was International Women's Day yesterday. I'm not so sure whether I think it's happy and worth celebrating, because I've been in these discussions for a decade now, and I wish we wouldn't have to have those conversations. But yes, there are reports that say that it will take us 200 years to be on par with men. I still see the need for these discussions. I'm happy that we're having these discussions around International Women's Day, because we need to speed up the change. I do believe that there's momentum. There's more and more companies who are committed to make a change, but there's still a long way to go, as we've also heard so today. So is it happy International Women's Day? I think it's quite sad that we haven't gone further than we already have. I am happy that we're having these conversations.
Thank you for that. Kavya, anything from you to conclude today's conversation?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Meta's comment. I feel it's sad that we have to have these conversations, but I do realize the value of it too. Just a couple of thought points is, I just want all of us to think about any field of study, any role, any career aspiration. Let's just try to distill down to what the skill sets are needed. none of these skill sets are gender based, as you said, right? When challenges come, challenges are not gender based. So none of the skill sets needed are gender based. No one has ever said that only boys can do math. We just assume that girls can't do math, for example, right? So let's distill that out to what the skill sets are needed, the direction in which we want to go. And if we are passionate and we want to go that direction, don't listen to any discouraging voice and just go after it. That's my thought.
Well said. Absolutely. A woman said she could, and that's why she did. Right. That's how it works. Anjali, what are your pearls of wisdom before we end?
You wrapped it up beautifully, and I would just say that, even though it's a long walk to freedom, it's these aggregation of marginal gains from these tiny little efforts that we keep making that would actually move us forward. And I think one of my messages for women who actually are contributing towards these conversations is to also try and always, if you really work hard towards not making conversations of such nature a popularity contest, and actually really making sure that we stick to the agenda, we stick to why we are having this conversation. Recently, if you watched Gangubai, there is a dialogue in it which is popularity ka kya main achar dalungi, badlav chahiye, which literally means, what am I going to do with popularity? I want to change in the society.
Absolutely.
So I would just end at that.
Thank you. I also say, well, what am I going to do with the awards? What I need to do is make sure that I live to see the change that I'm trying to bring here, right? And when I say I mean all the women around here who actually they are witnesses to discrimination. They are witnesses to a lot of things that are happening around them. They do raise their voice, and then there are few people who applaud for her, invite her, and respect her with an award. Fantastic. But does the change really happens? Because end of the day, what we want to see is a future where there are no female leaders. As I say, there are just leaders. We don't want to say male or female. We just want to stop this discrimination. We want equality. That's what it is. It is not about being masculine to be a strong woman, right? All right. On that note, I do want to thank each one of you. Yes, we spoke about inequality in pay. We talked about the opportunities. We talked about, the percentage of women in leadership, entrepreneurship for that matter. We haven't touched upon other topics like violence or security of women and a lot more. These are bigger issues that definitely needs more time and focus and, of course, a lot more. But on that very positive note that we are moving in the right direction, and we need to start bringing a change from our houses. It's not about telling our daughters that they are strong. It's about teaching our sons to deal with strong girls who are equal to them right from childhood. That's where the change happens, right? So thank you so much, guys, for your time. I do, again, see, look at me. Thank you, guys. Look at me.
Thank you.
Meta is going to be staring at me. What did you say, Vinod? All right, so thank you. And definitely, this has been a very, very, I've learned a lot. I've really, really learned a lot from this conversation, and I feel very good about having this conversation and this wonderful panel. I hope to have you guys back again, but thank you for today, and happy International Women's Day to each one of you. Let's break the bias, as they say. Kavya doesn't want to. All right, it's a gap. Thank you. Thank you.
Here.
Till we meet again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Imagine a gender equal world.
A world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination.
A world that is diverse, equitable, and inclusive.
A world where difference is valued and celebrated.
Together, we can forge women's equality.
Collectively, we can all #break the bias.
Let's break the bias. This International Women's Day and more.
जोश में रहो